The Moss Landing fire began January 16th, and we'll hear from Mr. Brian Roeder about that. It began January 16th, 2025, continued to burn for many days, and started again a month later, and is still a very serious health hazard. And to date, even though the Public Utilities Commission has demanded an investigation into the cause of the fire, and again, Mr. Roeder will speak to you about that. To my knowledge, there's been nothing really provided. And what concerns me is that the lithium technology that would go into the battery containers at Minto Road, there would be over 300 containers. They look like metal cargo containers filled with lithium batteries. It may be a different composition of lithium than what was at the Moss Landing, but it is still just as dangerous, just as flammable, and when it burns, studies have shown that it actually emits more toxics than the nickel, cobalt. So
my name is Brian Roeder. I grew up here. I went to Aptos High. I was on the East Coast for about 30 years, came back 3 years ago, and moved my family to Prindale. We don't live there anymore. So are these folks ambulance chasers? Are they NIMBYs? Are they liars? Well, I guess that's what they are, if you believe Fisher's PR company, CTEH, which has been hired by major corporations after other industrial disasters like East Palestine, Deepwater Horizon, the 2008 TVA coal ash spill, and the 2019 Deer Park, Texas chemical fire. In all these instances, independent experts and toxicologists criticize their methodology and their assertions. CTEH claimed to be a scientific and technical firm, yet they are handling Vistra's PR. Isn't that an ethical conflict of interest? They're being paid to tell us that everything is okay. They're the scientific and technical party responsible for determining the causes and cleanup at that site. And I call bullshit on both CTEH and Vistra. They're representative of this industry, folks. So, are the authorities here to help? Sorry to say no. Hydrogen fluoride was monitored at 9 EPA sites. They were ground stations. HF is lighter than air. And in the air, moisture immediately converts HF to hydrofluoric acid and hydrochloric acid aerosols. The EPA didn't measure for those chemicals. Remember those people I told you about just a minute ago, having breathing problems, burns in their throats? 5 days after the fire, you may remember this, the EPA told us that all the HF was destroyed. Yeah. Fire can't destroy HF. It can only be neutralized, and none of the required processes to do that were present during the fire. Don't you think the EPA knew better? The EPA, leading the Monterey Bay Air Resources Board, California Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment, was measuring for 2.5 microns and up. Just to put that in perspective, that's 1/30th the size of a human hair. But what if what came out of that fire was smaller? Metals boil and evaporate. They boil and evaporate at anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 degrees. This massive fire was estimated to have burned at up to 5,000 degrees. Gas vapor is 1 micron and smaller. Welding fumes are generally in the area of 1/10 of 1 micron to 1 micron range. Don't you think the EPA knew that? If you're not testing for what's coming out, you don't find it. So can the counties help us? No. The counties can't cope with the scale of these industrial disasters, folks. They don't have the staff nor the expertise. The Monterey County Planning Commission was the highest authority locally, the Planning Commission, to approve the Moss Landing BESS. It was a change of equipment. Moms and pops and families and small business people, good people, are on our planning commissions. With the info provided, I probably wouldn't have opposed it if I'd been on the planning commission. The Board of Supervisors never saw it. The Coastal Commission never saw it. But the state signed off on all of it and told the county how great and green it was. Now the county needs state resources. You know what? Superficial assistance is all that's been provided. You think it's going to be different here in Santa Cruz?
No.
Will the state help us?
No.
Sorry. State Senator John Laird, who I met with, stated that to achieve 2045 decarbonization goals, some eggs would be broken. Guess what, folks? We're the eggs. We're the eggs. And we were broken. We're his constituents. And that's his response. From our governor down, the state has provided limited support. No financial aid, no interviews of the community, no environmental studies, no health teams, no declaration of emergency, no financial support to people who spend thousands of dollars going to the doctors and trying to get help for their animals. It took almost a month to provide medical guidance to the county. A month after we started hammering them. Don't expect anything here to be different if it goes sideways, guys. The state has abandoned its responsibility to the health, safety, and welfare of the public, handing it over to these enormous corporations that have promised to make us carbon neutral by 2045. And those companies are earning obscene profits. Our battery's getting safer. Well, you already heard a little bit about that. But it's not really like we've been told. Thermal runaway is happening more often. 2 huge ships carrying electric cars have burned and sunk in the past year, one in the last 2 months. Did you hear about that? 5 in the past 5 years. All of them attributable to the batteries in those cars. Several BESS burns have been in the past few years in Australia, Scotland, South Korea, here in Arizona, San Diego, Escondido. This industry is saying that the ratio of burns has plummeted. Well, yes, it has. You're going to be shocked by this fact. As a ratio of the vast number of BESS facilities being installed, burns have fallen. But they're rising each year, and there is lead time from install to potential burn. Moss Landing opened in July of 2021. And Moss Landing was rated for 20 years, so it burned in less than 4. Here you go, folks. The vast majority of BESS plants are less than 4 years old. In 2020, California had less than 1 gigawatt of BESS capacity, and now exceeds 15 gigawatts. 93% of all BESS facilities have been installed since 2021. So where's the proof that these things are safer? When you consistently overcharge and over-discharge these batteries, you know what happens? They break down, they fissure. Those fissures create gases that are released that are toxic. Hot spots that lead to thermal runaway. 4 years. 25% of the California installs are the same MMC chemistry as Moss Landing. And these batteries are, of course, very volatile, and they explode. Now, I've seen videos showing that the other batteries, the LFPs, are more stable. But when they burn, they're more toxic, you just heard. You know, it doesn't matter how they're packaged. The fact that they're in shipping containers and not giant buildings like Moss Landing, at the end of the day, doesn't matter. Thousands of these containers are being installed all over the state. And there's a reason for that. Rather than a massive facility far away, the power is brought from our rooftops, bought from our rooftops that we paid to install for pennies on the dollar. When we have more power being generated and we're using during the day. Back to your question, sir. And then at night, when we need it, they're charging us dollars on the penny to sell it back to us. And it's just being stored down the block from us. Makes sense, right? And we're paying these corporations at every step of the way after spending the money to put these things on our roofs. And folks, the profits of this industry are obscene. Obscene. In Australia, they call it the gold rush. If Aptos or Dominion or Minto pops, that's the word I use, pops, it's going to mess up the people in that neighborhood. Moss Landing messes up the region. It's going to mess up the people in that neighborhood. And it might be your neighborhood. I went to Aptos High. My parents live each direction about 1.5 miles. It's your kids, your grandkids. And they're being installed everywhere. We don't realize what a threat this is. Our authorities have placed the pursuit of decarbonization above our health, our safety, our welfare, and this industry is dirty. It's pursuing obscene profit at the expense of human health. If and when these things pop, we will all pay the price. And the Calvary's not coming, you guys. Until we organize, which is what tonight's about, and tell our elected representatives to stop this madness. Our elected leaders need to assert industry oversight that's been abdicated in pursuit of the 2045 objectives. Last page, friends. And only this will only happen if we make noise. Look, you can learn more. You can go to www.neveragainmosslanding.org. It's about 120 documents there, news media reports. There's more coming up all the time. You can join our mailing list. They don't come out all the time, but when you get them, it's going to tell you what's going on. It's going to give you good information. Just go there, click on the button.
All right, so my name is Nina Audino. This is my husband, Greg. Shortly after the Moss Landing fire, within like maybe 7 days afterwards, we started forming a group because we became aware, thanks to a very diligent and wise, longtime Santa Cruz resident, Becky Steinbruner, and her Santa Cruz Voice radio show. We became aware that there are 3 facilities like the Moss Landing one, and I'm saying that broadly. We do understand, we're intelligent people, and we understand that these facilities will be different than the one at Moss Landing. I kind of want to preempt that right now. But we realize that we're going to have 3 built here in our county on a 15-mile stretch potentially, and we love this county. We're deeply environmental, both of us, and so we decided to start the group. And we have a full agenda today. I wanted to just let you know that we are going to have a presentation by Becky Steinbruner about the background to this development, best development in Santa Cruz County, and then a brief slideshow, and then after that, 2 speakers. There will be tons of time for questions and comments in between. And I want to introduce Rosella.
Thank you very much. And I'm here to read sort of our mission statement. And these 2 wonderful people have put all this together to inform us of this incredible cause. So our group is a Santa Cruz County grassroots nonpartisan citizens action group of concerned residents raising awareness about the risks of proposed industrial-sized lithium-based battery energy storage systems, BESS, near Aptos High, Dominican Hospital, and at 90 Minto Road near Pinto Lake, just outside of Watsonville. Our state is committed to decarbonizing by 2045. Many of us support that goal, but we are not opposed to safe battery storage. However, we do not support lithium battery energy storage when it is deployed near and amidst residential areas, agricultural land, and natural habitats. We oppose sitting lithium-using BESS facilities in our neighborhoods near homes, schools, hospitals, and congregate care facilities. We advocate for public safety, transparency, and responsible energy solutions. So please, you all, make that possible by participating in this movement to change their direction. Thank you.
My name is Emily Francis Cogan. I'm just going to make a quick announcement. I'm a filmmaker. I'm based in Monterey. I had symptoms from the Moss Landing fire. I am filming today. You might have seen posters saying that filming is in progress. So I'm making a feature documentary called Lithium on Fire about the Moss Landing battery fire, and you are being filmed. Thank you for being here.
So it's my great pleasure to introduce Becky, without whose work we wouldn't know much.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. And thank you all for coming. I really want to give a shout out to the people who have worked with Nina and Greg. First of all, Nina and Greg, thank you for all your hard work, the amazing website that makes information available to everyone. But with those who have worked so hard to put on this event and 2 others before it, please wave your hands, stand up, whatever, because there is a mighty team here that has made this possible. Thank you, and we urge any and all of you to join the mighty team. I want to first talk a little bit, my job here first is to give a timeline of how this has come to be proposed for Santa Cruz County. I attend a lot of County Board of Supervisor meetings, and so I have been watching this for quite a while. The first time it came before the public, let me emphasize that. The first time it came before the public was on August 13th at a County Board of Supervisor meeting. And it was to propose that the county adopt an ordinance that would combine parcels spread out in the county. There were 4 at that time. There were the 3 that you've just heard about. The Minto Road project, the one on Freedom Boulevard across from Aptos High School, and the one at Paul Sweet Road immediately next to Dominican Hospital. And there was a 4th one at that time in Scotts Valley. So it was being driven by then District Supervisor Bruce McPherson, who essentially helped create Central Coast Community Power. It used to be called Monterey Bay Community Power Consortium. And he was driving this, the board that day to approve, in concept, this draft ordinance in our county that would allow these battery energy storage systems. They have the acronym BESS, that's for Battery Energy Storage System. And he was pushing very hard that the planning department approve it, and that the board approve it, and the planning department move on. I have to tell you that Mr. McPherson also at that time served on the policy board of Central Coast Community Energy. I have to tell you that our county's administrative officer, Mr. Carlos Palacios, serves then and still does on the Central Coast 3CE Community Energy Operations Board. They're both very, very involved. So it was being driven, and the county planner, Miss Stephanie Harlan, said, well, this, not Stephanie Harlan, Stephanie Hansen, said, this is the first we've heard of this. We can't possibly get this done. We need time. And to that, Supervisor McPherson said, well, how about by mid-October? She said, we need 6 months. He again said, how about mid-October? So sure enough, in October 29th,
Is this last year?
it came back. Yes, this is 2024. Thank you, 2024. In October 29th of 2024, it came before the board. There were 3 sites then because the county had determined that the site in Scotts Valley was within the city of Scotts Valley boundaries and the county had no purview over that. So that was the first that the public started hearing from Ms. Hansen about this project, that she said, well, we're hearing about this project that's coming along, and so we've kind of done our best, and here's what we've come up with, and so the board can approve this in concept. Now, I will tell you that not everybody on the board was in agreement. In fact, 2nd District County Supervisor Zach Friend voted against it because he did not feel it was right to take agricultural land out of production against our county's Measure J policy voted on by the people. And he did not think it was wise to put such a facility so close to Aptos High School. So he voted against it.
Who did?
Zach Friend, that was second County Supervisor Zach Friend. He has now moved on, and the new supervisor, Ms. Kim DeSerpa, has replaced him. So it got voted on, and it did get approved in concept, and the board was instructed planners to come back by April 29th of 2025 with the final ordinance, how these facilities would have to be built and what the codes would be applicable. April 29th of 2025. What happened in December, early December, was that the applicant for the 90 Minto Road BESS project filed their application for the project. This was done by the consultant Swift Consultants, representing New Leaf Energy, and the facility is called Seahawk Energy Storage. It is at 90 Minto Road, the end of a very rural but very densely populated, essentially a one-lane road because people park on both sides of it. And it dead ends next to a large substation at the end of Minto Road and an apple orchard. The one public meeting that was supposed to be held, required by code at the county, was noticed to maybe, we're not sure how few, but the postcard noticing that meeting on December 12th had no time. It was held at a Mesty school. There was no time. I have been told by Mr. Swift that they sent out a second postcard, but the person that alerted me to this has never received that second postcard. And it's a substantial person in the community that should have received such notice. So it went through, and what we learned, these documents in the application had already had a lot of ancillary studies done to support the project. There was an archaeological assessment that said it's okay. There was a geologic hazards assessment that said it's okay, even though it's near a fault zone. And there was a risk assessment that a consultant hired by New Leaf Energy to do this, it's a big one in town, a big one in the world named Dudek, that does a lot of work for the county. They did that risk assessment. In that risk assessment, the Shapiro Knolls Affordable Housing Complex, where about 80 some odd families live, I've been told over 200 people. That was not even included. And it is right there, adjacent, on the other side of the substation. The community of people that live along Minto Road were not included. The community on the other side to the north of the substation is called Diamond Estates, a very dense subdivision. They were not included. In fact, if you look at the photograph image in the risk assessment, all of those subdivisions, all of those homes are blurred. They're not included, they're not shown. The only, what they call sensitive receptor of people living nearby is a barn and a residence right next to College Lake. Let me state that again. This is very close to College Lake, which is now a water supply project for the Pajaro Valley Water Management Agency. Those were the two sensitive receptors, and the risk assessment said no one will be living in those homes for the life of the project, so it's okay. It's been very difficult to get information. These documents are not public. You have to make an appointment with the county planning records room to go look at them, which is available to do to the public by appointment from Monday through Thursday from 8 or 9 a.m. until 11. And you cannot take photos, you cannot, they will not make copies for you, but you can look at it. And so that is how we were able to learn what we've learned about this project at Minto Road. April 8th, the County Board of Supervisors postponed their decision-making on the county's draft BESS ordinance because they wanted more information from what happened at Moss Landing. And they may be waiting quite a while, I'll say.
What was the date of Moss Landing?
The Moss Landing fire began January 16th, and we'll hear from Mr. Brian Roeder about that. It began January 16th, 2025, continued to burn for many days, and started again a month later, and is still a very serious health hazard. And to date, even though the Public Utilities Commission has demanded an investigation to the cause of the fire, and again, Mr. Roeder will speak to you about that. To my knowledge, there's been nothing really provided. And what concerns me is that the lithium technology that would go into the battery containers at Minto Road, there would be over 300 containers. They look like metal cargo containers filled with lithium batteries. It may be a different composition of lithium than what was at the Moss Landing, but it is still just as dangerous, just as flammable, and when it burns, studies have shown that it actually emits more toxics than the nickel cobalt. So I've got my 1 minute warning here, and I want to just say that what people need to do is, first of all, you don't have to believe me. You can go online on, we have a wonderful resource in our county called Community Television that films all of the County Board of Supervisor meetings and other government meetings. Look at August 13th, when this first came to the public. Now, these studies were being done over a year in advance of this date. Look at October 29th. Look at look at April 8th. Those are the three critical dates. And you can watch the video and see what happened and see what was said. And what we need in our county is a moratorium on lithium. There are alternatives to lithium. I don't care what the specialists say that the lithium iron phosphate is safer. It still is not safe. And there are alternatives on the horizon, very near on the horizon, that are safe, that do not have the thermal runaway problem. Why can't we slow down with a moratorium and make this happen for us instead of what happened in Moss Landing? We need to link arms. This is a big fight, and we all need to be contacting our county supervisors and demanding a moratorium on lithium in Santa Cruz County for these grid scale operations. We need to demand that the County Board of Supervisors convene a panel of experts that are impartial. What is happening now is New Leaf is writing our county ordinance, and I have seen proof of this through Public Records Act request information. They are writing it for our people and our county, and the county's letting them. And we've got to speak up, and we've got to opt out of 3CE to put pressure on them, because secretively they are supporting lithium. They have supported, funded a new project, lithium ion in Monterey County, and they are not being forthcoming about what they support and what they don't. Now on the back table, you can find information about how to do that. It's the only way that they will listen. We've been going to their meetings and they don't listen, they don't answer our questions, they don't pay attention to us. But they'll pay attention if enough people opt out, and that will make a difference. We've all got to work together. Thank you.
What was the name of the...
You have a question?
Oh, I just wanted to, please say again the name of the gentleman besides Bruce McPherson, but you mentioned another gentleman.
Carlos Palacios is our current county administrative officer. He serves on the operations board of 3CE. He is retiring at the end of this year, but I will tell you that he sits there prominently, and you can go to those meetings, and I urge people to go to 3CE meetings. They will start up again in August, and they need to be hearing from us, and there are letters in the back to send to them, and also the current 5th District County Supervisor, Monica Martinez, has taken over the position on the policy board that Bruce McPherson held, and she's there too.
I'm just going to show you a series of slides for you guys to get a sense of how close things are. So this is the 90 Minto Road site. There's the substation, and there's the border of the Diamond Estates up above. Down below, you can see renditions from the developer. Something I wanted to point out really quickly is this is more realistic size-wise. This facility is going to be the size of about 10 football fields. It's an industrial, it's the size of a large industrial facility. This is another rendering, and you can see how renderings are very interesting depending on what perspective you take. This makes it seem like this is very small in relation to the rest of the picture, so it's just really important when you're looking at things to kind of pay attention to details like that. The next one is Aptos. I put the sign for Aptos High School down below in between the two, so this is one of the closest properties to the substation, and the facility would be nearby. So that, I mean, it's like 100 feet away, basically. This is the site behind Dominican Hospital. In the upper left-hand corner, you can see Dominican. And then these are homes right here.
If you're familiar with Houts Drive, it comes off with Mission and tees into Patterson. So that's kind of this area. You may not have seen this from Paul Sweet Road, but there's a very dense developed subdivision neighborhood right next to this area.
I put this together just food for thought. At the first Commission on the Environment public panel workshop that was held on June 25th, a very well-known Stanford professor who's done amazing work with climate change and modeling made repeated statements that the fires that happen at these facilities are rare. So on the left side is a chart that shows work that was put together by a group of 3 working for Never Again Moss Landing. I'm citing them down here. Ed Mitchell, Sharon Tosto, and Tanya Rivera. And that chart is self-explanatory. The top 2 say S&S because those were not actual fires. They were like smoke incidents. They were failures, right? Another interesting thing about this chart is that every single one of these, except for the 2 on top, are containerized fires, because another statement that is coming in the narrative from the industry is that containers are much safer. And in fact, the language that I heard repeated by the professor and also by the interim chief operating officer of 3CE was that they're outside. They're not inside anymore in a building, they're outside. They're not outside, they're in containers. They're still containerized. And so you still have that same kind of thing where lithium can go ballistic if it's inside a container. It's just a small container. So, and then this is also pulled from the Never Again Mosslanding study. And notice the date. So back in 21, before most of these fires happened, this insurance company, which is a gigantic global corporation, was citing these as an issue, a problem. The issue with these facilities is that, or with the containerized lithium BESS systems, is that many factors can lead to thermal runaway. I've listed them, I'm not going to read them for you. You guys can read, take pictures if you want. It's a very complicated thing, and it's just many things can go wrong and have. And then, so this is pulled from a peer-reviewed academic journal called the Journal of Energy Chemistry. And then an organization called Clean Energy Associates in 2024 in February published a study based on 320 factory quality audits in 5 countries, including the US and China, that indicates that 50% of the risk for thermal runaway is actually not the cell, but all the other stuff around it, the components, the housing, everything else. I'm just going to read this middle section. This is based on 60 papers, 60 scientific papers that all agree that lithium iron phosphate batteries present actually a greater flammability hazard. They have a greater toxicity risk. They produce significantly more of the highly toxic HF gas, and they have a greater risk of vapor cloud explosions, like the tops coming off and the doors coming off of these storage containers. So the second generation LFP battery is safer line that is being heavily promoted by the industry is actually false marketing. It is not based on science. Okay, so BESS developers like New Leaf Energy are making false claims. Again, that LFP battery-based BESS are safe and will not burn. They point to 0 fires in California. Well, we only started putting in BESS facilities that are using LFP batteries starting March of 2022. They're very young, only the most recent ones. China has been installing them for a decade, but we don't really get information from China on how many failures they've had. And that kind of leads into the next thing over here. Actually, nobody has been keeping track of failures and fires, including here in California and in the United States. So until Mosslanding happened, historically, until that happened, the CPUC, for instance, didn't say anything about that. And now they issued this new GO 167 order in March, which basically specifies that if you have a problem, you are legally obligated by law now, by code, to report that you had a problem in your facility within 24 hours. That wasn't happening before. So a lot of our information on failures and fires is not science again. These are 2 examples of actual containerized LFP fires that have happened. One in China in 2021, it killed 2 firefighters, and one in Germany recently. There is at least one scientific paper that argues that the 3 sun cycle fires that happened in Germany within 3 months at the same facility were also LFP fires, but unfortunately, these people have not disaggregated that information, and they're not listing whether this was an LFP battery on their site. So we don't know for sure. Okay, and then this is kind of the last slide. Some of my friends that I've made working in this movement with this group say that we're being asked to accept a technology that has a proven record of failure and fire, and we're being told that it's going to be safer now, but essentially this is an untested technology, and we're going to be the people, we're going to be the test people, basically. Our communities is where this is going to be tested. And then this is a doctor. He's retired. He's a doctor of University of Southern California's Keck School of Medicine. He studied 200 National Library of Medicine citations and 65 citations on lithium-ion battery, right? And then 65 more on battery fires specifically, and came up with this statement that in his concerted opinion as a physician, based on all of the things that can go wrong in someone's life with their health, if they are exposed to fires, whether they're NMC fires or the toxic organic compounds that combust in the LFP battery, his position is to stop these, to pause them until further information is available for what kind of health problems people are going to experience after these fires, and instead to build BESS that are non-lithium ion or LFP based and that are not combusting, they're not burning, these batteries are not burning. That's pretty much it. I did this differently, not the way we had planned.
Rita, this is great. I can't believe you put this together. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. This is all news to me, so maybe you could go into why are these things being put in the electrical grid system, and how did this all begin?
Yeah.
It has to do with energy storage. That they're saying we need lots more energy for everything that we're using in the world today.
This business of selling these things to these counties and these electric...
His question was, why these things? Why are they doing it?
Greed,
Greg,
profit.
I can, if you want.
Yeah, actually,
So the idea is that we're decarbonizing. And we're generating in California more power than we need during the day. Once the sun goes down, you don't have enough power. So if we're going to achieve decarbonization, we need a way to solve that problem by having power at night. That's where the batteries come in. Without the batteries, decarbonization won't work. The question is, what kind of batteries? How do we store this energy in a way that isn't sacrificing health, safety, and welfare? And I'll talk more about that in a bit. Does that answer your question?
Well, does it tie
Yes.
into it?
Yeah.
What about the making of the battery how does that offset the cost of carbonization?
I can't answer that. It's a very complex question. You may know more about that, but right now,
We'll be talking about that.
yeah, it's a good question.
My son's a civil engineer, and he told me about some tests that have to be done whenever you're looking at new technology. One is the California Environmental, or CEQUL. It's a environmental test, or a report that they give on construction, air quality, the soil quality, and I don't know if they've done one of those. The other thing that is required, that's California required. The other thing that's required is it's an AQI, which is a disaster plan. And in light of what happened down at Moss Landing, we would think that there would be some sort of disaster plan. And according to him, the disaster plan looks at the worst case scenario of what the impact would be, whether it would be heavy metals, whether it would be fires and spreading, and I think that's something that we need to be asking for. So those are two things. And then the only other thing that I had on my list is, I live up in Santa Cruz Gardens, which is near Chaminade, which is near the hospital. We can't get insurance now because of all the eucalyptus and everything that's going on there. Has anybody looked at the impact that we are going to have in trying to get insurance for our homes?
Right.
I think it's important.
Okay, I can answer some of that. So we are going to have to fight to make sure that we get CEQA. So apparently from some of the PRA responses that we've gotten, the county has, and the developer initially tried to do the same thing that happened at Moss Landing, an initial study that would release a statement saying everything's been mitigated, negative mitigated declaration. We're fighting, we're going to have to fight that. I think there may be people in the county who are also in support of a CEQA, a strong CEQA. You need to also know that the CEQA law has... has just been gutted. They passed new laws that basically took the teeth out of CEQA. And we're going to be the first people experiencing that, basically, these facilities that are going in. You're talking about a different kind of plan, like that, not the plan, the emergency plan response that the developer wrote in their application, but I can tell you, and Becky will say the same thing, that the plan that New Leaf Energy offered for the Minto Road facility is not based on a worst case scenario at all.
So the Vistra plan, their internal worst case scenario for Moss Landing, which you know burned for days, I believe their worst case was that the fire would be out within a half hour. Does that give you some idea of what we're up against?
Yeah.
They may come up with a worst case scenario. It's not good enough.
If we have time to watch the video from the battalion fire chief, that's his whole point. So they test at the cellular, cell level, and rack level, module level. What they need to be testing is what's called large-scale container fire. Induce a fire in the container and see what happens. And so, for instance, the application that New Leaf Energy submitted, they have a virtually non-existent plume study. It's going to go out about 80 feet. And it's based on the idea that part of one module only will burn. So the words that you said that are critically important is worst case scenario. And what we're hearing from the industry over and over now, like when I go to the next, Commission on the Environment talk, we need to get in front of this. We're not talking about we're going to have another worst case scenario like Moss Landing. We're all intelligent people. We know that. It's not going to be that kind of worst case scenario. But the point is we need to be planning for the worst case scenario that can happen with this technology, basically.
There were approximately the equivalent of 4.5 million to 5 million AA batteries inside that facility. 80% burned. So it only took one of those batteries to start that fire.
And I will also tell you that the Watsonville Wetlands Group has presented questions to the New Leaf developer because they're very worried about the potential impacts on College Lake and riparian environmental areas around. New Leaf wrote back and said, it is highly unlikely it would be a fire. If it happened, it would be one cell and the plume would stay within the footprint of the project. This is the kind of information that is being given in answer to our concerns.
I would like to see what people are from Minto Road or from Green Valley. Can anybody raise their hand? Oh, thank you for coming. I thought I was going to be the only one. My other question is, or statement, is I think they have to say they are going to refund and give back money to all the people that are going to be endangered or have been endangered, losing their homes or their health in one way or another. There's got to be a fund set up for those people, for all that area, Green Valley, Amesti, Corralitos. That's my opinion.
I live within half a mile of this proposed project right now on Midle Avenue and walk past this area every day. It's a beautiful agricultural area of existing 100-year-old apple trees that are going to be taken out. And I've talked to my neighbors. One of my neighbors just said, I'm going to move away. I'm just going to move away. So the big question is, what's this going to do to property values? Are we all going to lose our insurance in this area? That kind of thing.
We have 50-something counties in California. California is huge, right? So given that there's 50 counties, 12 doesn't seem like a big number, but it's hope. There are 12 counties right now, and the group is growing, a coalition called Californians for Safe Energy Storage, and they're in this fight. Many of these counties for 3 and 4 years now. We're latecomers, but what that means also is that there's a ton of information out there, and they are already asking questions like insurance. That's come up, what you said. I mean, that's the precautionary principle, right? Either the developer proves that what they're putting in is safe, or they put in something dangerous, and when it blows up, individual people have to prove that something's wrong with them. Something's not right with that picture. Yeah.
And I want to thank the folks that have come from Watsonville tonight. The Stop Lithium-Based in Santa Cruz County group has put on 2 other meetings like this in the Minto Road area. We wanted to branch out to this area because of the other 2 projects. Even though the word from the county is, oh, nothing's happening there, there is activity happening there. And we want people to be proactive and involved.
Becky's going to talk about this slide, but
since the fire at Moss Landing and all of us waking up to what is going on and the hazards of the lithium-based batteries, many of us have been attending the 3CE board meetings and the community advisory meetings. And 3CE now extends from Santa Cruz County all the way down to Santa Barbara. It's a very large area. And so those meetings happen. You can find them on the 3CE website under meetings. You can find the time and date, and they always have an in-person site in each county. In Santa Cruz County, it's either in the basement of the 701 Ocean Street building, but sometimes in Watsonville at the City Council chambers on Main Street. I urge you all to go. And I urge you all to make your voices heard that you do not want lithium battery energy storage systems in Santa Cruz County. We've been going to those 3CE meetings, the operations, the policy, the advisory committee, and we speak and then they don't even answer our questions. They never respond. They never even ask for staff clarification, which they are allowed to do under the Brown Act. And so we feel that 3CE will not pay attention to us. We feel that the county is not paying attention to us. And as you all know, the best way to get someone's attention is in their pocketbook. 3CE is worried about people opting out of their service. Their executive board talked about this at their last meeting, and they're very worried. And that is what we have all got to do. 3CE has 93% of the customer base in Santa Cruz County, because when they got started up in 2017, if you didn't opt out of 3CE, you were automatically enrolled in 3CE. And many people felt that it was a good thing anyway. It was going to be supporting environmental issues, supporting decarbonization, whatever, and that it was going to be cheaper. Well, it's not. The power from 3CE is not 100% renewable. They have a goal, which I think is rather unreasonable, of by 2030, there will be 100% renewable energy. And that is what is driving this fervor for the battery energy storage. 2030 is 15 years ahead of the state's deadline to be 100% renewable. 2045 is the state's goal. 3CE made this deadline for themselves, and the county has embraced it and supports it. And that is what is driving things here in Santa Cruz County, this fervor, at the risk of our health and safety. So opt out, there is, you can go online, you have to pay a $5 charge if you're a residential, but it's the only way we're going to get their attention. It's important that you fill out the letter in the back and send it to them to let them know why you're opting out, because they're not being transparent at all. And the cost is virtually the same as the cost of PG&E. And that table is also available for you to take home and look at on the back table. The cost is the same, and 3CE is not listening to us. PGE isn't listening to us either, but they're huge. 3CE is smaller, and we can make a difference here. Thank you. Send the letter, and you have to take action online or with a telephone call. And that information is on the bottom of the letter to 3CE directors and CEO. And it's also on the very colorful flyer saying opt out that was designed by Mr. Keith McHenry for this purpose. And feel free to share that with your neighbors. So you have to do two things. You have to actually opt out with a phone or online, and then it is very important to let 3CE know why, because of what they are doing and not doing.
I have a video, a short video, about 6 minutes long, that was made by a retired fire battalion chief from LA on how these systems are being tested. In his opinion, the tests are not good enough. And it's got really good information, so I was hoping to maybe share that video with you, because apparently there's at least one organization that is pushing successfully for a different kind of test that will potentially show what's safe and what's not safe. So,
large fire smoke risk from battery energy storage systems. Hello, my name is Ron Cabrera. I'm a battalion chief, retired. During my career, I worked operations command staff, prevention assistant chief, and arson investigation chief. I have managed many large fires requiring thousands of gallons of water per minute to extinguish highly flammable and chain reactive materials. Battery storage facilities are simply the latest type of hazmat threat. Energy storage systems near homes and schools must be opposed due to the toxic smoke threat. Points of concern. 1. The current UL testing method falls short of real worst-case scenarios. 2. The likelihood of fire spreading to an entire container or adjacent containers is real. 3. Lithium battery smoke is highly toxic and capable of moving downwind for miles. And 4. Lithium iron is marketed as safe, but the reality is it is marginally safer at best. This battery cell rack container is 28 feet long, 9 feet tall, and 5 feet wide. The causes of fire, in addition to thermal runaway, are overcharging, mechanical damage, environmental temperature, and short circuits. Each of these containers holds over 8,000 battery cells.
I'm going to pause this just so that you understand what's coming to Watsonville is 20 feet long, about 8.5 feet high and 8 feet wide. So it's a little bit different. And they're going to be using LG batteries. Stop it now.
UL is the standard for testing the cell, module, unit, and installation. Heat films are applied to only 6 of 8,000 cells to slowly drive them into thermal runaway. This test commonly does not simulate real-world fire conditions, leaving uncertainty about fire spread. We are not capturing a large fire condition caused by external ignition sources, such as cabling, connectors, HVAC, and weather. And most importantly, it does not provide real-world plume modeling or off-site consequence analysis data. CSA Group, a reputable testing company, recently released their large-scale fire test procedure. It goes beyond existing UL 9540A tests and properly aligns with the California Fire Code. The test initiates an actual fire in the enclosure to evaluate how fire might spread to nearby enclosures. Jurisdictional authorities are now requiring this new large-scale fire testing, in addition to UL's test, which commonly does not result in a fire condition. This is a large-scale fire test of lithium iron phosphate battery storage unit. Factory Mutual Insurance conducted this test through the National Fire Protection Association's Fire Protection Research Foundation. The height of the container is 6 feet and the sides are 9 feet from a partition. There are 3 heaters and a propane pilot flame used to ignite the cell gases. Ignition of a single battery module led to the full involvement of the entire rack. It was concluded that without fire protection, the recommended space separation from combustible objects would be 13 feet. The International Association of Fire Chiefs recommends firefighters assume a let it burn mode. Water is ineffective in extinguishing burning lithium batteries. When a container fire becomes fully involved, large volumes of toxic smoke will threaten thousands of people. Research at the University of Nevada, Reno on lithium-ion batteries showed the following. Hydrogen fluoride was the most immediate danger for human health. Lithium-ion cells had a higher emission factor of particles and hydrogen fluoride than the more common lithium-ion cells. Significant smoke emissions of volatile organics, fine particles, and hazardous metal compounds were found. Plume models. These are from San Juan Capistrano in Orange County, California, indicating a day and night scenario. The weather input for these were typical coastal weather with a daytime wind of 4 miles per hour and a nighttime wind of 2 miles per hour. Emissions factor input was based on a study from Electric Power Research Institute. Chemical input was based on 1 battery container in full burn for over 1 hour. The yellow color indicates temporary discomfort symptoms. The orange indicates serious adverse health effects, and the red would be life-threatening. The plume distances for day on the left indicated 0.3 to 2 miles in the yellow. At night, all 3 were up to 6 miles out.
More wind.
Takeaways from today's presentation. 1, the UL 9548 is inadequate test for real-world scenario. Large-scale fire testing is vital. CSA group is leading this effort. Fire spread to an entire unit or other units is likely. Lithium iron smoke is still dangerous. Smoke plume models on a burning unit is more realistic and most threatening with nighttime conditions. Thank you for your time and interest.
That should be on the board of supervisors agenda. Skylar, did Bradley Angel start GREENACTION?
Yes, yes. Bradley Angel is the executive director still of GREENACTION, which is
Hi everyone, my name is Skylar Sekulis. I'm here from GREENACTION for Health and Environmental Justice. I am an environmental justice organizer. I've been with GREENACTION for about 3 years now. I am here alongside you all learning about these facilities proposed in Santa Cruz County. I live in Santa Cruz. GREENACTION is based in San Francisco. My role at GREENACTION focuses on sea level rise and shoreline contamination. So my focus is on the shoreline of the Bay Area. So today I'm going to be talking about GREENACTION, just introducing myself, introducing what environmental justice is and some examples of environmental racism. I'll also be highlighting another community affected by lithium, specifically lithium mining in Nevada. I'll also be talking about advocating for safe and healthy communities in our neighborhoods, and then just a few resources at the end. All right, so GREENACTION is an environmental justice nonprofit organization. We're based in San Francisco, but we've worked with communities all across California, Arizona, Utah. We've been around for almost 30 years, and we're here to mobilize community power to win victories and hold government agencies and dirty industries accountable. We reached out to neveragainmosslanding a few months ago to support and help hold those government agencies accountable to their responsibility to clean up that site, test properly, and respond properly to the massive fire disaster that we saw. So specifically, GREENACTION helped call on the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, and the Department of Toxic Substances Control, which is a department underneath California EPA. We historically have worked in the area. We did work in Moss Landing in 2003, helping advocate against the garbage incinerator proposed then. And then in 2016, we did a Youth Leadership Academy in Gonzales, but since then, we haven't been in this area as much. In case you're unfamiliar with what environmental justice is, or you've never heard of environmental racism, unlike mainstream environmentalism, environmental justice addresses racism and other systems of oppression that influence the types of environments we live in, and how well resourced or protected the community or neighborhood we live in is. Communities of color and indigenous communities are more likely to live in close proximity to environmental hazards like increased exposure to harmful pollution, contamination coming from heavy industry, dumps, incinerators, illegal dumping, or heavy pesticide use, which are all examples of environmental racism. Another example of environmental injustice would be citing affordable housing near heavy industry, or vice versa, citing heavy industry near affordable housing. So we see examples of that in San Francisco and Treasure Island and Bayview Hunters Point, both highly contaminated areas in San Francisco where affordable housing is cited next to or on those areas. We see this potentially with the BESS proposal on Minto Road in Watsonville as well. When that community is being targeted, it seems the most out of all three of those proposals. Another example is the failure to assess cumulative impacts. So, like I mentioned, there's socioeconomic burdens that are felt on top of environmental hazards, and often they're linked because of environmental racism. So agencies often fail to address these socioeconomic burdens that are also facing communities. But there also is a failure to assess mixed contamination and multiple exposure pathways. So if you're in a community that has heavy pesticide use, or heavy trucking, or a dirty industry, or all three or more, the failure to assess all of these combined together is a flaw we see a lot, and something that we see with environmental testing as well when we're looking at acceptable levels of what are acceptable levels of exposure. Those levels, when we look at them cumulatively versus when we look at them individually. And a tool that addresses that is CalEnviroscreen. CalEnviroscreen is a mapping tool from the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment. And this is just a kind of a screenshot of the Monterey Bay, and you can see in the Moss Landing area and the Watsonville area, the red kind of shows this higher environmental and social burden. I know it's kind of hard to read. This map shows pollution burdens combined with population characteristics. So this is just one tool that's used to kind of display this, and California EPA uses this to identify what they call disadvantaged communities, or what they also might be called environmental justice communities. And since we're here learning about lithium batteries, the harms that the battery energy storage systems cause, I wanted to talk about another community GREENACTION has worked with in Nevada. So the people of Red Mountain, they are near one of the largest lithium reserves in the United States, called Thacker Pass. There's lithium mines proposed for this area. It's sought out by the mining industry as a heavy resource. And this is just another community that we have to look out for, and we can't leave behind when we're switching to green energy and trying to transition out of fossil fuels. GREENACTION actively supports the people of Red Mountain, which is a grassroots committee of the Paiute and Shoshone people opposing destructive lithium mining taking place at Thacker Pass, which is an area with profound sacred significance to the indigenous people of that area. They're also working to protect McDermott Caldera, which is a massive lithium deposit right near Thacker Pass. Thacker Pass is in Nevada, and then McDermott Caldera is in Nevada and also in Oregon. So not in California, but our neighboring states. These are statistics coming from the People of Red Mountain website. I can't necessarily answer questions about these statistics, but I wanted to show them here as something that they're working on, and this is why they want to protect McDermott Caldera, because the lithium mine in Thacker Pass isn't even operational yet, and they've seen massive destruction. 6,000 acres destroyed, and you can see the daily toll that it takes on this land and the community as well. And things like this, especially sacred sites, can't be restored. So environmental restoration can only do so much, especially at sites like this. So how do we advocate for safe and healthy communities? First of all, being here is a huge step. Learning about these facilities, getting involved with Stop BESS Santa Cruz County, learning from neveragainmosslanding and local organizations. We have to keep fighting for our clean communities. We know that this is something we all deserve. We all deserve healthy, clean air, safe drinking water, and we also deserve the right to this in the future, for future generations. We want to protect these resources that we have. A tool that can be used to kind of look at this, something that Becky mentioned, is knowing who's in charge, who's responsible, who has the authority. We're seeing the planning department, the board of supervisors, they're making decisions. We have to make sure that we're involved in any public participation opportunities, like those C3E meetings, making sure that our voices are heard. When we can opt out. Finding opportunities for mutual aid and getting involved in local organizing are also ways to get involved. Like I mentioned, neveragainmosslanding, Stop BESS Santa Cruz County. There are other environmental justice organizations in the county, like Regeneracion. So getting involved with local groups, advocating for safe alternatives to lithium, and also advocating for a more circular economy. And so when we're using these minerals and resources, we're making sure that we have systems that recycle them and reuse them, because right now we have a more of a linear way of doing things where we use them and then they go into the dump and they become hazardous waste. We cannot leave communities behind, so when we're looking at the green revolution and decarbonization, we can't have sacrifice zones or communities that we know are going to be destroyed along the way. That includes the places where these minerals are mined, and then also the communities where they'll be set and pose a risk to if they burn or fail. Cleaning up the contamination, especially along shorelines and in our waterways, is extremely difficult and requires efficient and robust cleanup. Like I mentioned, my focus is on shoreline contamination and sea level rise, groundwater rise, and other flooding events that mobilize these buried contamination, and really make it so that we have to act efficiently and quickly to make sure that we're protecting these sites, protecting our waterways, and not allowing the contamination to spread further into our communities. So it's better to keep these areas safe, stop the contamination where it starts. If you've heard the phrase, prevention is the best protection. We have to keep the communities clean. Reacting to them is a lot harder. For now, I'll leave you with the resources that I mentioned throughout the quick presentation, the GREENACTION website, the Callan virus screen map. It's easy to find, that link is long, but if you look up Callan virus screen, it'll come up, and then there's a lot of resources, but if you wanted to see the map, you'll scroll down to the mapping tool. And then I just wanted to shout out a couple of other organizations GREENACTION has worked with that focus on clean energy and transitioning into clean energy with an environmental justice framework. So Gaia, the Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives, is a global alliance GREENACTION helped found years ago. They have a lot of resources. They recently had a panel and webinar on battery alternatives. It was electric vehicle battery alternatives, but there's a lot of information that pertains to us here today, so wanted to shout them out. And then Earthworks is another great resource that talks about the circular economy. How can we reuse lithium batteries? How can we make this process more sustainable and also more focused with environmental justice in mind, so we're not leaving communities behind. That's all I have for today. Thank you guys so much for having me.
I bear witness. Kim, on Summit Road. Bloody nose, shortness of breath, wheezing, headaches, chest pain, irritating and scratchy eyes. Jill, Kinsley Street here in Santa Cruz. Metal taste, breathing issues, tight throat, tired, nose issues. Feels like someone's sitting on my chest. Jeff in Moss Landing, swollen, burning eyes, weird metal taste, hard time breathing, itchy arms, rash. Emily, Carmel, asthma, emergency room. Sylvia, Marina, rash, coughing, raw throat, continued coughing, sensitive to light, insomnia. Patty, Castroville, rash on the stomach, chest and back. Mark, South Salinas, appendix pain, sores in mouth, ammonia-type symptoms. Angie, Prunedale, extreme coughing, nausea, migraines, environmental chemical sensitivity, emergency appendectomy. Jennifer, Pacific Grove, throat, esophagus, lungs burned, I had difficulty breathing. Terry, Watsonville, sore throat, coughing, and my AFib is back. Laxamapriya, Aptos, metallic taste, nausea, lethargy, headaches, congestion, heart palpitations. Tammy in Prunedale, household sick and grandson in hospital for 4 days. Stacy, Scotts Valley, bloody nose, sores in mouth, migraine, metal taste. Rodolfo, Scotts Valley, went to hospital with breathing problems. Hospital would not discuss battery plant. Susie, Back Ranch Road, Santa Cruz, stinging eyes, cough, headache, insomnia. Husband, pericarditis and difficulty breathing. Jessica, Watsonville, eyes burn, migraines, hard time breathing, dizzy, weak, heart racing. Candace in Felton, lung pain and abdominal pain, blood and urine. Christy on Eaton Street, Santa Cruz, 26-year-old boy died because of breathing problems. And 480 more people's medical symptoms are on a database on my desktop. It's appalling and it's heartbreaking. It's real, it happened. And the pain and the suffering of the community that got hit is real. So my name is Brian Roeder. I grew up here. I want to tell you what I've learned today. I went to Aptos High. I was on the East Coast for about 30 years, came back 3 years ago, and moved my family to Prunedale. We don't live there anymore. So are these folks ambulance chasers? Are they NIMBYs? Are they liars? Well, I guess that's what they are, if you believe Fister's PR company, CTEH, which has been hired by major corporations after other industrial disasters like East Palestine, Deepwater Horizon, the 2008 TVA coal ash spill, and the 2019 Deer Park, Texas chemical fire. In all these instances, independent experts and toxicologists criticize their methodology and their assertions. CTEH claimed to be a scientific and technical firm, yet they are handling Vistra's PR. Isn't that an ethical conflict of interest? They're being paid to tell us that everything is okay. They're the scientific and technical party responsible for determining the causes and cleanup at that site. And I call bullshit. On both CTEH and Vistra. They're representative of this industry, folks. So, are the authorities here to help? Sorry to say no. Hydrogen fluoride was monitored at 9 EPA sites. They were ground stations. HF is lighter than air. And in the air, moisture immediately converts HF to hydrofluoric acid and hydrochloric acid aerosols. The EPA didn't measure for those chemicals. Remember those people I told you about just a minute ago, having breathing problems, burns in their throats? 5 days after the fire, you may remember this, the EPA told us that all the HF was destroyed.
Yeah.
Fire can't destroy HF. It can only be neutralized, and none of the required processes to do that were present during the fire. Don't you think the EPA knew better? The EPA, leading the Monterey Bay Air Resources Board, California Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment, was measuring for 2.5 microns and up. Just to put that in perspective, that's 1/30th the size of a human hair. But what if what came out of that fire was smaller? Metals boil and evaporate. They boil and evaporate at anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 degrees. This massive fire was estimated to have burned at up to 5,000 degrees. Gas vapor is 1 micron and smaller. Welding fumes are generally in the area of 1/10 of 1 micron to 1 micron range. Don't you think the EPA knew that? If you're not testing for what's coming out, you don't find it. So can the counties help us? No. The counties can't cope with the scale of these industrial disasters, folks. They don't have the staff nor the expertise. The Monterey County Planning Commission was the highest authority locally, the Planning Commission, to approve the Moss Landing BESS. It was a change of equipment. Moms and pops and families and small business people, good people, are on our planning commissions. With the info provided, I probably wouldn't have opposed it if I'd been on the planning commission. The Board of Supervisors never saw it. The Coastal Commission never saw it. But the state signed off on all of it and told the county how great and green it was. Now the county needs state resources. You know what? Superficial assistance is all that's been provided. You think it's going to be different here in Santa Cruz? No. Will the state help us? No. Sorry. State Senator John Laird, who I met with, stated that to achieve 2045 decarbonization goals, some eggs would be broken. Guess what, folks? We're the eggs. We're the eggs. And we were broken. We're his constituents. And that's his response. From our governor down, the state has provided limited support. No financial aid, no interviews of the community, no environmental studies, no health teams, no declaration of emergency, no financial support to people who spend thousands of dollars going to the doctors and trying to get help for their animals. It took almost a month to provide medical guidance to the county. A month after we started hammering them. Don't expect anything here to be different if it goes sideways, guys. The state has abandoned its responsibility to the health, safety, and welfare of the public, handing it over to these enormous corporations that have promised to make us carbon neutral by 2045. And those companies are earning obscene profits. Our batteries getting safer. Well, you already heard a little bit about that. But it's not really like we've been told. Thermal runaway is happening more often. 2 huge ships carrying electric cars have burned and sunk in the past year, one in the last 2 months. Did you hear about that? 5 in the past 5 years. All of them attributable to the batteries in those cars. Several BESS burns have been in the past few years in Australia, Scotland, South Korea, here in Arizona, San Diego, Escondido. This industry is saying that the ratio of burns has plummeted. Well, yes, it has. You're going to be shocked by this fact. As a ratio of the vast number of BESS facilities being installed, burns have fallen. But they're rising each year, and there is lead time from install to potential burn. Moss Landing opened in July of 2021. And Moss Landing was rated for 20 years, so it burned in less than 4. Here you go, folks. The vast majority of BESS plants are less than 4 years old. In 2020, California had less than 1 gigawatt of BESS capacity, and now exceeds 15 gigawatts. 93% of all BESS facilities have been installed since 2021. So So where's the proof that these things are safer? Little sidebar here. When you consistently overcharge and overdischarge these batteries, you know what happens? They break down, they fissure. Those fissures create gases that are released that are toxic. Hotspots that lead to thermal runaway. 4 years. 25% of the California installs are the same MNC chemistry as Moss Landing. And these batteries are, of course, very volatile and they explode. And I've seen videos showing that the other batteries, the LFPs, are more stable. But when they burn, they're more toxic, you just heard. You know, it doesn't matter how they're packaged. The fact that they're in shipping containers and not giant buildings like Moss Landing, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Thousands of these containers are being installed all over the state. And there's a reason for that. Rather than a massive facility far away, the power is bought from our rooftops that we paid to install for pennies on the dollar when we have more power being generated than we're using during the day. Back to your question, sir. And then at night, when we need it, they're charging us dollars on the penny to sell it back to us. And it's just being stored down the block from us. Makes sense, right? And we're paying these corporations at every step of the way after spending the money to put these things on our roofs. And folks, the profits of this industry are obscene. Obscene. In Australia, they call it the gold rush. If Aptos or Dominion or Minto pops, that's the word I use, pops, it's going to mess up the people in that neighborhood. Moss Landing messes up the region. It's going to mess up the people in that neighborhood. And it might be your neighborhood. I went to Aptos High. My parents live each direction about a mile and a half. It's your kids, your grandkids. They're being installed everywhere. We don't realize what a threat this is. Guys, this just happened. Hundreds of people are sick. This was the biggest facility in the world. I've gotten calls from people all over the world. You're not alone, they're fighting. I'll be in Santa Fe in a week and a half to talk to people just like I'm talking to you. The question has been, why isn't everybody sick, right? It's because the people who got really sick were the immunocompromised. People with bronchial issues, people with pre-existing conditions, people who were near the burn pits when they were in the services. They got it right away. But you know what's scary? There are thousands of us who got the same shit. We don't know it because we're healthy. Well, hopefully you are. I hate to be this person who says this because I'm actually a happy, easygoing guy, but we all, if we breathe this stuff in, especially if you're closer to it, you know, have a loaded gun up against your head. And you're playing Russian roulette because of these fuckers. Excuse my French. It'll happen in 10, 20 years. You won't know why. That's what they're offering us, folks. All right, I'm going to wind up here. Our authorities have placed the pursuit of decarbonization above our health, our safety, our welfare, and this industry is dirty. It's pursuing obscene profit at the expense of human health. If and when these things pop, we will all pay the price. And the cavalry's not coming, you guys. Until we organize, which is what tonight's about, and tell our elected representatives to stop this madness. We demonstrated, our group demonstrated against John Laird's absence. A couple of you were there.
His absence?
He's not listening to us from our community. His absence from this community on this issue. He's not listening because he doesn't think it matters. Look, I believe we have to decarbonize. I really do. But we can't rely on these batteries and this technology to do it. It's too dangerous, folks. Gen 3 and Gen 4 batteries are in the works. They're being installed in South Korea and China. I've got the CEO, the chairman of a company that's doing these things. They're doing their first industrial install in Montana now. Inert, it won't burn, it won't explode. But those BESS facilities are more expensive, or they're bigger. But they're a lot less risky. Our elected leaders need to assert industry oversight that's been abdicated in pursuit of the 2045 objectives. Last page, friends. And only this will only happen if we make noise. Becky's been making noise, good noise. You know, to adapt the famous and heroic words of the political giant John Lewis, who I'm sure many of you remember. We need to get in good trouble, necessary trouble, and help redeem the goal of decarbonization in America. That's my version. Doesn't do justice to his. As I said in an interview, listen, hear, learn. Okay, that's a lot. Form your own conclusions, guys. Look, you can learn more. You can go to www.neveragainmosslanding.org. It's about 120 documents there. News media reports. There's more coming up all the time. You can join our mailing list. They don't come out all the time, but when you get them, it's going to tell you what's going on. It's going to give you good information. Just go there, click on the button. I guess I'm mostly the last person until the Q&A. I want to thank everybody who put this together tonight. I want to thank Becky and Lena and Greg and others who've worked so hard to make this happen. Skylar's doing amazing work. She's helping us to get into the face of our state administrators, finally, and get them to maybe listen. I'm not sure, but at least we're trying. So the people who did this, I want to thank you, and I appreciate being here tonight. Thank you.
Wednesday we have farmers market. Beautiful looking produce from Watsonville, from our area. Should we be eating it?
You know, a lot of people have asked that question of me and our group. We don't have an empirical answer for you. What we know is that uptake is different for different vegetables. We know from our testing of heavy metals that there are extraordinary elevated levels in certain areas. There are wind eddies, there are hillsides in the way, the type of soil. All of these are factors that affect what's on the ground, what's in the ground, and what potentially is in the fruit and vegetables. I think it was maybe Nina who said earlier that, or maybe it was Skylar, there's no data that's been done. There's no research that explains this. So I can't answer that. I can only tell you that I'm not eating the fruit or vegetable locally. And I've gotten calls from people all over the country asking the same question. I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
In the good times after, the fire happened, they ran a number of articles about scientific surveys that were done by some local people out of Moss Landing lab. Did that make an impact?
I can answer that. Professor Ivano Aiello had been testing the slough soil mud prior, and he went out a week after and tested it again. We tested before he did, before the weather came in, 125 tests throughout the entire Monterey area. That was a community-based thing. I'm the guy that did that, okay? And Professor Aiello's research came out beforehand, and it made national news, what you're referring to, I think, showing elevations as much as 1,000 times above his previous readings. 2 nights after we released our information, without saying what it meant, we just said, here it is, here's the data that we have in the lab. Professor Aiello called me on my cell phone, I'd never spoken before, and he said that our numbers exactly to less than 0.5% variance correlated with his numbers on the ratio of 4 metals that we both had tested for: lithium, manganese, cobalt, and nickel. What we now know is that those metals burned and vaporized, as I said earlier, and they're more dangerous when you breathe them in as vapor. They pass through the blood vessel wall, and they go into your organs, and they go into your soft tissue, and they stay there during damage. We know that.
What was the rebuttal from the battery people? They said that they had sent, or I thought I read, that they had sent out their own scientists and got much lower levels, blah, blah, blah.
So all I'll say really in short is, the counties have tested, DTSC, Department of Toxic Substance Control, is tested, and the EPA is tested, and they say that they don't see alarming numbers. I will say this, in my opinion, they've tested using approaches and in locations that are not fully revealing of the extent of this. We've asked DTSC, who Skylar helped us to meet with, a senior person there, to explain how do you get from saying it was destroyed and it didn't come out to elevations as much as 690 times what we believe is baseline, which is what our numbers say. How do you get that deposition 8 miles from this plant in Royal Oaks and Prunedale when you say nothing happened? And we've requested that they answer that question, they explain it. So the tests have been done, they've used protocols that were applicable, like taking 4 inches of soil when it's right on the surface, using ground sampling when it was going up in the air. They haven't done it in a very effective way for whatever reason.
I just want to remind people that we have these sign-up boards going around, so please, 3 types, and they're color-coded for you. So there's a sign-up one, a petition for opposing 3CE or trying to get their attention, and then also a petition for the Board of Supervisors, trying to get their attention, okay? So,
If you haven't signed one,
come sign. Santa Cruz County is the second smallest county in California. The only smaller one is San Francisco. And I did the map study. The locations of these 3 sites are on a 15-mile stretch. And you saw the plume study, the real plume study, based on a whole container burning for 1 hour. And that plume study at night went out 6 miles. So we all live here together. You might want to ask yourself, if the plant at 90 Minto Road burns, what is 6 miles in a 360 direction around? Who lives 6 miles away from 90 Minto Road? Where would that target be? It's food for thought.
About the winds, we're 2 miles from 90 Minto Road, 2 miles kind of north. Anyhow, the winds blow because of the way the fog winds come in down there. They blow from from Moss Landing up towards us and go on to Aptos.
Yeah.
It's amazing how the wind blows that way, even though the wind over the ocean is blowing, from the northwest towards the south. It circles around and comes back up day and night. And down there where 90 Minto Road is, it's a wind tunnel, any time of the year.
I haven't heard much said about the aquifer and the after effect of the pollution on the aquifer, and if the aquifer throughout, because they're all different, they're all moving under the ground, and are they being tested regularly for whatever pollution, whether it's a PG&E pollution like in Aaron Brockovich or whatever. I don't hear that much said about the aquifers.
Right. So
and the stuff stays in the aquifer a lot longer than it stays on the soil and the air. And if it's raining, it's all drawn down into the aquifer.
you share a concern with a lot of people. I can't answer that. I'm not a scientist. What I can tell you is that the water board, there's an association of water boards, and Vistra's given a plan to clean up the site. And most of the authorities that have jurisdiction have accepted it, but the water board is saying we don't accept it. We want to have testing for dioxins. Neveragainmosslanding has just done testing for dioxins, and we'll have a review of the results tomorrow in a meeting we're having. And as soon as we have some interpret of that, we'll be releasing that to the public again. As for aquifers, I think the people that have shallow wells near the Moss Landing plant have problems. Whether or not the deep aquifers, how long it takes, I don't know.
The Aptos Central Water District is authoring a letter to the supervisors, specifically to Kim DeSerpa. That's the first, and their water basin, obviously, right? That's the first opposition letter we're aware of coming from any authority body, governmental authority body in Santa Cruz County. So I'm very impressed by them. And I don't think it's coincidental that it's water.
Is there other water districts that we can contact?
Yes, we're gonna start working on that, yes. Yep.
People please,
They should contact their
stay in touch, by email.
Okay, Becky said you need to contact your water district as quickly as possible and express concern. Yeah.
What is Kim DeSerpa's position?
County supervisor. County, isn't she on the board of supervisors?
None of the supervisors have taken a position.
She is the Aptos character.
Someone asked, what is Kim DeSerpa's position on this? We've spoken to, if we consider our bigger group, the group that's working on this, I would say that we have actually spoken with every single one of the 5 supervisors, and they're not taking a position on it. But please remember that Felipe Hernandez proposed this originally, and he does support it. He has been visiting with groups and passing out, working with the developer and passing out materials from the developer. So I'm assuming he's supporting it.
You mean the promotion of it?
Yes, he's for BESS. And he's the
Yeah.
one. Is Marie McCarthy still here? She was sitting next to me, the analyst for Supervisor DeSerpa. Okay, I guess she had to leave. She was here tonight. She's heard this presentation. It was Maureen McCarthy. She's one of 2 analysts for 2nd District County Supervisor Kim DeSerpa.
The question I want to ask is, are there any politicians here? Anybody with any constituents? Then I recommend that they no longer have a job. Vote them out. And this guy McPherson, I'd say he's a criminal.
Yep.
Make sure he doesn't have a job.
It's been a long time.
There's something I would like to say, that this is a new technology. At one time, nuclear energy was a new technology. And I was a commercial fisherman at one time, and I was made aware that way back when it first started, nobody knew what to do with the waste. So they buried it, that's in quotes, off the Farallon Islands in 55-gallon drums.
That's right.
So nobody knows what to do here. I understand there's a new battery technology already coming out, aluminum ion. I have a thing on my phone. It says that the Toyota CEO, he says the new engine, which is a hydrogen engine, will destroy the entire EV industry. Now, he can't introduce that now because think all the jobs are going to be lost, all the money in this new energy. And, you know, I've had 2 e-bikes. I got rid of them both. I'm still in the market. But, you know, if the battery goes bad, you got to buy a new bike. There's no answer to that. I'm in the market, or looking at it. You know, I really got impressed with this new Volkswagen bus. You know, it's a retro bus.
Is that a question?
I want to make a statement. Do you mind?
Well, there's people there.
It's a new technology, and you ask about it, and nobody knows. Nobody knows. You research it yourself, and what are you going to come up with? There should be no question about what's going on, because look at Moss Landing. I mean, that's why we're all here. There should be no question the danger of this. Get rid of these politicians. Thank you.
I just have a question, because I've heard a lot of people discussing a lot of things, but nobody's discussing the effects on the children and the Moss Landing, the Minto Road lithium battery storage, which is already going into process, and they're already getting permits into progress and getting passed. And on Minto Road, you're looking at around 5 schools just within that 6-mile radius of toxicity.
More 9 schools.
9, okay? And nobody's discussing the effects on the children, on how that's gonna affect our young ones around our neighborhood and our community. And to me, that's probably the most biggest concern, is nobody's concerned about our youth and who's gonna protect them, because that's our job. It's our job to protect our kids, to protect the future of this community, and the youth, and the people that we vote in to those positions to protect them are not doing their job. Nobody from the school board is discussing the situation, and nobody's being aware and bringing that to the community, like in the board meetings, nobody's discussing this when it comes to school board meetings, and that's a big issue for me. Because at the end of the day, they are the ones who are going to be the most affected in the future.
Sir,
right? We're gonna go ahead, we're gonna be the ones congested and like, I'm sorry, the gentleman said earlier, breathing in these fumes when it finally goes into flames. Because it's not if it does, it's when it does.
That's right.
Go to, sir, let me go to Google
No, go ahead.
and look at what happens when cobalt and nickel are vaporized. They have severe cognitive effects on the people who inhale them. Just go there and look at it and take that to the people at the school boards and get them on your side.
I've been trying, but it's going on that day. I've been trying very hard, and so has my wife. We've been trying very hard to bring it up into the school board community, but nobody's listening. Yeah, so I just wanted to bring it around, bring you guys also, so if you guys also have kids in this community as well, in Aptos and Santa Cruz, think about your kids, because they're the ones who are really going to be affected at the end of the day by when it goes into flames and it just brings poison all into the water, into the air, and into the soil. That's what we got to be concerned about, is our children and what's going to affect them.
Thank
I'm sorry, that was all I had.
There's a question back here.
Dwayne, I live near Dominican Hospital, so it's very aware, what this thing would be, and it seems like it's very concerning, obviously, because can you imagine, like we're talking, seeing these plumes go by, all these people would be getting very sick. Well, they'd be sent to the hospital that would also be being evacuated at the same time. So it's kind of like catch-22. How is that going to work? It's not going to work. So this is a very concerning place, way too close to the community. I know these winds around here very well. I lived here all my life, and they go everywhere. Go down south. It wraps around the whole Monterey Bay. Anyway, the thing I want to bring to the question is that I saw an article, and I looked at this as a result of this whole particular discussion here coming up. I saw there's Assemblyman Carl DiMaio, if I got it right, from District 75 of California State Assembly. He has put together AB 434, Assembly Bill 434, where it puts people first, priority safety over speed, and returns power where it belongs to our local communities. Does anyone is aware of that? And because I've not heard it brought up at all in this entire discussion.
434, AB 434 is sitting in committee. And it is hoped that it will come back next legislative session, along with AB 303, proposed by Assemblymember Don Addis from the Morro Bay, Moss Landing, and parts of Aptos. She is working hard, and her bill, AB 303, is also sitting in committee because her bill includes a required setback of 3,200 feet of any of these BESS facilities from any school, residential area, environmental area, hospital, and that's what the industry is fighting. In fact, that's what 3CE said at the June 25th Commission on the Environment meeting. They don't like that because it would make it hard for them to site these facilities. That's the idea, isn't it? DiMaio's bill would implement a moratorium on Lithium BESS and would tie it to the new state fire codes that are in development now regarding these. Incidentally, next week, the state fire marshal will be holding a symposium that's free. You can sign up, go to the State Fire Marshal website, look up BESS Symposium, and you can sign up for that. And there will be a discussion about what the fire industry wants and needs for protection of the firefighters, the people, and the environment in the new fire code that will be implemented in 2026. Sign on in support of AB 434 from DeMaio, AB 303, because those are two bills that are going to offer us real protection, and urge your elected officials and county supervisors to do the same.
We're all in Santa Cruz County now. I was in Monterey County when Moss Landing blew up. Where do we go when we have an emergency in Santa Cruz County?
The fairgrounds.
The fairgrounds. How far away is the fairgrounds from Minto Road?
Less than 0.5 miles.
Yep, less than half a mile. As a crow flies. So if you want to think about it, we know how far our plume goes. Where are we going to evacuate to?
Not
Where?
even the airport, because sometimes the airport is an option.
The
You can't
airport-
go to the airport either, that's
No, the airport's even
1.5
closer.
miles.
The airport's even closer. So you need to think about that when you write to your county supervisors. I've written to the county supervisors, I've written on the two bills, and we need to say, hey, if there's an emergency, where do we go? If you blew up our evacuation plan.
Marilyn. I want to thank the people who put this together. It's just really fantastic. And this flyer is superb. Stop dangerous lithium batteries. I'm not for a moratorium. I'm for banning it and stopping it. We know it is toxic and hazardous in every respect and only benefits the industry. And I think the storage facilities, from what I'm reading, is tied to AI and 5G, where they need more and more and more electricity, and to upgrade the whole, transmission system. I heard a congressman say that. Also, a tremendous amount of water is used to cool these facilities. So I think this whole thing on green energy is a sham, and the effort is to stop it, ban it.
Speaking of Elkhorn Slough, I have friends that may be coming from Missouri that wanted to go as a tourist to that area. Is it being closed down? Is it affecting tourism?
Oh, no, it's affecting tourism, it's not closed down. And we advocate supporting the businesses there, many have closed.
So it's open, it's open.
Yes, the slough kayaking and excursions
Should
are
it
still
be?
open.
Should it be open?
I can't address that, I'm sorry.
Don't eat the mud.
What?
Don't eat the mud.
As far as if it's the 90 Minto Road, is it in permitting right now? Permitting usually takes a while in Santa Cruz County. So how long do we have before something happens, and what's the timeline looking like?
I can try and answer that, because you're right. Unless the county wants something to happen, it takes a long time. But this is being pushed, and it's being pushed very strongly. In fact, at the October 29th, 2024 Board of Supervisor meeting, when the board was approving this new BESS ordinance in concept, the CAO, Palacio, nearly jumped out of his chair and said, we have to approve this. And I am hearing that sense of urgency in certainly the developer's point of view, and Supervisor Felipe Hernandez's point of view. So I think once the county Board of Supervisors approves that ordinance, it will move very quickly, because the 3CE has the goal of 2030, the county has adopted the goal of 2030 to have 100% renewable energy, and they can't do it without these battery storage. The other thing I want to say is that the county Board of Supervisors, each of them, all of them, have resisted having town hall meetings like you're having here tonight. This is the third that has happened only because of the efforts of the people who are adamant that we need information. So the supervisors need to be sat upon and have the people demand town hall meetings.
I wanted to say that they have set a date of September 9. So this is the second postponement. The first one was from August to third postponement. First one was from August to October. In October, it was from October to April. In April, they moved it to September. We have placed calls to the planning department to get a straight answer about what is happening on the 9th and about whether the final draft of the ordinance is going to include all 3 sites or just Minto Road. We're unable to get a straight answer. We are not giving up, and we're going to keep placing these calls.
And I will tell you that I have filed a Public Record Act request on April 23rd for documents from the county. How did they decide where to put these? The county has delayed my Public Records Act request multiple times, and most recently, just last Friday. They say I can't expect anything for another 3 weeks. However, another individual filed the same Public Records Act request, and the county gave him 150 documents, which he shared with me. And in reading those, I see and am alarmed that the county planning department is accepting New Leaf and their applicant, Mr. John Swift, guidance to remove many of the barriers that would happen with the 90 Minto Road regarding removing agricultural land. They have, and this is DUDAC, that paid consultant, has determined its own definition of critical facilities. DUDAC has determined its own definition of the quality of farmland at Minto Road and has determined that it is not viable agricultural land. So it will be no loss when that orchard is taken out. And the county is allowing this. And I learned that through Public Records Act request information that was given to another individual. So that's why I say, once the ordinance is signed, it will move quickly. And we have got to be very, very adamant with our supervisors that we will not accept this.
Okay, so we have to be organized. I know a lot of people have left, but just so that you can picture this, I'm watching this like in other counties. Some of the decisions that they're making, like Becky has just described, can be fought. And there are other things that can be fought in the CEQA process. But in order to fight this, we have to have an army of 2,000 people. That is how many people are making comments in CEQA process in other counties. 2,000 to really be heard. That's what happened in Morro Bay. That's what just happened in San Juan Capistrano. We need to organize an army of people who are willing to write and speak individually. And it can work. I mean, this is our county. It can work, but we've got to get organized. And to Becky's point, quickly.
This isn't a question. I just wanted to note that regardless, and I don't agree with the eggs comment of Senator Laird, but he does have SB 283, which I've read. I think it's an excellent bill. I think it's worth supporting. The current bill, and I do support Don Addis's bill, but however, that still remains local control. The SB 283 actually brings control into the state fire marshal, our local fire, as well as a larger organization that's overseeing very important criteria for safety. So I do suggest looking at SB 283. And I also just want to note my background's in biochemical endocrinology, and that there are chemicals even in our current fossil fuel industry, people don't realize at such a minute level, 10 to the minus 9, 10 to the minus 12, that cause and lead to a lot of the problems that we're seeing, from cancers to gut disorders, endocrine disruption, neurological and spectrum disorders. So we have chemicals in our systems, and we really need to be thinking systemically in all of these things. So thank you for all the work that's been done.
And I would like to just thank Lonnie Faulkner. She is on the board of directors for Central Fire Protection District. Please go talk with her and find out if Central Fire Protection District is aware of this issue. Thank you for coming to the meeting tonight, Director Faulkner. And what Central Fire Protection District plans to do to work with the two potential projects, the one in Aptos and the one at Dominican Hospital. Thank you, Director Faulkner.
I know everybody's leaving, but I just want to say as a person from South County that I would like to go to the PVUSD board meeting, and anybody else, retired teachers. I know, but I think we need to make a concerted effort and then show up, put our petitions in and go one by one and say, we want you to oppose this. I wrote down there are at least 8 PVUSD, 1 county school, and 2 private high schools in the periphery of this Minto Road. And also, I think we need to show up at the Watsonville City, because Watsonville City said they did not know. I spoke to a city board member, and she said they had no idea, nor did the firefighters, that this was going in, and they need to hear from city people, because just so people know, Minto Road is kind of half city, half county. It's county, but it borders between city and county. So we need to make some noise, like Nina was saying.
Thank you all.
So if anyone wants to go.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yay, Nina.
I just wanted to say before everybody left, I don't know how many of you are involved with Indivisible. Any of you have been going to any of the Indivisible protests? We have a group of over 4,000 in Santa Cruz that can be mobilized to do emails, and we do resist pot and the 5 calls. I'm on the medical team, we have an environmental team. So please get involved, Santa Cruz County, indivisible.org, or they're on Facebook if you do Facebook. You can always reach me, Mariposa. I work at 5 branches. I'm an acupuncturist, and I've been seeing a lot of people with different illnesses. Of course, we're also have a cell tower near us, but anyway, please get involved with Indivisible. They sponsored the John Lewis rallies today, so we're making good trouble and honoring 5 years since we lost John Lewis.